I believe there is a root wisdom we all share. It is an unshakable wisdom that reminds us of who we truly are. The sadness, grief, and despair, and frustration we feel when we see what is happening to our planet, our home, is actually a beautiful thing, because it tells us that we still love the earth. And I am on this journey right alongside all of you, because I still feel that grief and despair at times too. But I am on a mission to help others rediscover their root wisdom, those innate skills that keep us connected and resilient. I myself felt shut down after the 2016 elections. During the election announcements, I was working in a remote field setting in the mountains, living out of my tent, doing a job I believed in, restoring a natural habitat that had taken on the bruises of a destructive man-made electrical fire that caused massive vegetation loss and erosion. When my fellow field mates and I heard on the radio the news of the election outcome, a shadow of hopelessness grew over us. And in a half-funny, half-angry attempt to make light of reality, a colleague sounded aloud, after exclaiming several four-letter F words, "Well, climate change doesn't exist anymore." The truth is, all of our principles for the work that we did felt undermined. At that moment, I decided I would continue to focus simply on doing the best I could for the planet in my day-to-day life and work as I had always tried to do. Though I found it harder and harder to do so without a slump in my posture and a pep in my step. I didn't know what to do and wanted simply to wait for the whole Trump business to blow over. Well, I think it finally has. Like a swift hurricane, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has made her appearance with a loud and courageous voice. Now and anew, my head is held higher once again, and I am totally stoked. Alexandria's mark has been the long-awaited, skillfully courageous action I think we have all been waiting for. Now, more than ever, it is time to show up, stand up, and courageously present the actions of our moral obligations. It's time to intercept, transform, and hold reins to a new reality of partnership in our journey to connecting to one another and in our efforts to drive forward a sustainable future for all. Let's stand together. Let's be unpopular together. We're doing this. This is the moral courage we need to take. When I was contemplating doing this episode, I went for a short, barefoot walk near where I live, as I often try to do. Barefoot walking is one way I like to connect to nature. The day was particularly cold and windy, and as the multi-directional, intermittent gusts of wind sounded all around me, the hopeful and passionate words of Alexandria played in my mind. And I felt as if the earth, through her winds, was sounding her encouragement. So here we are. Let's talk about the new Alexandria the Great. Welcome. My name is Soraya, and you are listening to Wild Roots. Hi everyone. I want to let you know that this is not going to be a typical episode. I will not likely be repeating this format again. In this episode, I would like to talk to you about a couple of amazing people who have made their appearances in the mainstream and who are really stirring up a lot of conversations. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being one of them. This is something that has truly been on my mind lately, and I really would like to share with you, honestly, what I feel about Alexandria, what I've been discussing with others about her, as well as others who have been making their voices heard. The reason I find it so important to talk about Alexandria right now is because more than ever, we need a spokesperson who has the skills to boldly and bravely speak up about climate and the environment. Martin Luther King was incredibly unpopular in his efforts to change the minds and hearts of the people. Yet his voice still resonates within us. I feel we are entering a new era of great voices, Alexandria being one of them. She has spearheaded us into the right direction and into that conversation that needs to be spoken in the open. What I have observed in Alexandria are incredible skills to bring forth and discuss issues on behalf of those fighting for climate justice. Many of us who care deeply about the environment cringe at the very thought of getting caught up in the political arena, because far too often, very little, truly beneficial changes have been brought about through this. My hope is that these voices will change that very soon. For me, it is so important to do what I believe in, and that is why I do the jobs I do. I believe in work that brings true benefit to our world. Unfortunately, many people do not feel that the work they do is meaningful. Globally, we are experiencing great ecological grief, and so many people have felt silenced and powerless. I believe that bringing truly meaningful work to society can bring people great power. Recent Gallup polls reveal that over 75% of people dislike their jobs and feel disengaged from their work. Perhaps this comes down to the fact that so many jobs in so many industries are in fact harmful and rarely bring any true benefit to the people doing the work or to the world. So I love Alexandria's comments on the creation of dignified jobs and dignified work, because it seems as if so many people are a part of industries that uphold archaic and harmful technologies, and many people feel that there is no way out, and that there is nothing else they could do even if they wanted to. But I wonder, if people were given the choice to choose an industry to work in that brought true benefit to the world and to society, if they would not choose those jobs instead. I think most would. The argument is not a new one. To say that there would be little jobs created in transforming to a greener system is ridiculous. There is a lot of work to be done, and a lot to be undone. There's plenty of work to do. As Alexandria points out, the Green New Deal is not just for the few. It's for the coal mine workers. It's for those devastated by wildfires, or those communities that lack clean drinking water in California and in other communities. Yes, there are still communities within the great United States that lack clean drinking water. The Green New Deal is for everyone, and is essentially to encourage a revolutionized industry so that people can walk away from their jobs at the end of their day feeling dignified. I think people are ready for that. The system is breaking down. However, reprioritization is still needed. In an age where children feel they have no choice but to grow up fast and take on the role of adults, to be able to take action and to secure their future, as our world leaders continue to act as children, clearly we are in need of great change. I would like to end this episode with a remarkable speech delivered by a very young Swedish climate activist. Listen to the remarkable words of Greta Thunberg as she addresses the 2018 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Poland.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I am 15 years old and I'm from Sweden. I speak on behalf of climate justice now. Many people say that Sweden is just a small country and it doesn't matter what we do. But I've learned that you are never too small to make a difference. And if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. But to do that, we have to speak clearly, no matter how uncomfortable that may be. You only speak of green, eternal economic growth because you are too scared of being unpopular. You only talk about moving forward with the same bad ideas that got us into this mess, even when the only sensible thing to do is pull the emergency brake. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children. But I don't care about being popular. I care about climate justice and a living planet. Our civilization is being sacrificed for the opportunity of a very small number of people to continue making enormous amounts of money. Our biosphere is being sacrificed so that rich people in countries like mine can live in luxury. It is the sufferings of the many which pay for the luxuries of the few. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there still was time to act. You say you love your children above all else, and yet you are stealing their future in front of their very eyes. Until you start focusing on what needs to be done rather than what is politically possible, there is no hope. We cannot solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis. We need to keep the fossil fuels in the ground, and we need to focus on equity. And if solutions within this system are so impossible to find, then maybe we should change the system itself. We have not come here to beg world leaders to care. You have ignored us in the past, and you will ignore us again. You have run out of excuses, and we are running out of time. We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not. The real power belongs to the people. Thank you.
Alexandria, Greta, and others are making their voices heard in the face of unpopularity, standing up against the status quo on climate justice. Greta's perfectly succinct message condemns decades of inaction. Are we entering a new era of great leaders? Let's hope so. It's clear that we cannot continue on this path, as the parameters of global climate change have shifted and expanded. So must the parameters of our actions. Just as pressures placed on an ecosystem fosters instability and increased conflict, as species are forced to adopt and adapt to new habits in order to survive, so must we as inhabitants of this earth. We have little choice but to adopt new ways of thinking and existing. And as we head towards furrowing waves in a boundless sea of no return, waves that we can see clearly through our scopes, we need to turn this ship around. But we can't do that unless everyone is on board. If you could be transported back in time, knowing what you know now, what would you say to those who said, "We are never going to get to the moon. It's a ridiculous fantasy. It's impossible." Well, we did make it to the moon. It seemed impossible. and many felt it was a waste of time and money. Today, we are proposing an elimination of CO2 emissions, which means drastically transforming the way we live with healthier, more beneficial technologies. And now, today, we are faced with the same doubts as those who didn't believe we would ever make it to the moon. President Kennedy said, "We're going to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard." It was the challenge that made us overcome whatever obstacles we faced on that journey. Have we lost our grit to take on new challenges? Alexandria and Greta have not lost theirs. Today it is easier to continue using harmful fossil fuels than to completely renounce their use. That is the challenge. That is hard. And we can do it.